I'm Miss Yudi, and today I'm going to be talking to you about honesty. And first, before I get started, I want to say thank you so much to Coach Lyle and for your entire class for giving me this opportunity to speak with you today. So let's get started. If we look at how some people define honesty here, right? They can call it the quality or fact of being honest, uprightness and fairness, truthfulness, sincerity or frankness, and freedom from deceit or fraud. And I personally want to look at this third definition for a second. Freedom from deceit or fraud. And I love the fact that they use this word freedom. Like when you're honest, you're being liberated from something that's been holding you down, right? And sometimes when we get into situations where we're untruthful or we're telling lies, it can oftentimes feel like you're being trapped, right? And I in many cases, when you end up telling a lie, it usually isn't just that one singular lie. It's this compounding effect of lie after lie after lie, and you dig yourself into this hole. And again, it can be like this giant pressure on your chest. And that's why I love the fact that this thought of honesty, right? Just being upright and being fair and truthful and sincere, right? It gives you this sense of freedom, this liberation from having to be deceitful or not truthful, right? And so I love the fact that this is that definition. And I wanted to elaborate more on kind of my experiences and its situations with honesty, right? And so I love to talk through quotes, so you're going to see that throughout this entire presentation. But to start off this first one, honesty is the first chapter in the book of wisdom, right? Again, if we take a step and we look in the bounds of academia, since that's where we're at, right? If we look at school, we know what we know based on people telling us, writing it down, giving us, accounts of what happened, what they knew, what they found, right? So for those who don't know, I teach science, right? And this year I'm teaching the AP chemistry course, right? In science, we learn from the people before us, right? We build upon the knowledge that was already there, and we push past that and try to find something new, right? And if we were built upon a foundation of lies, we would not be able to get anywhere, or we would accept those lies as accurate information, and the rest of what we would be built upon would have a poor and crumbling foundation, right? So easily here, honesty can be seen as again the first chapter of us learning new things. Again, they use the word wisdom here, right? Building upon each other, taking a more personal step here. Okay, the first principle that you must is not that you must not fool yourself, and that you are the easiest person to fool. So I love this quote because I've always been a fan of you have to be honest with yourself first, right? I've always said, myself personally, I was an okay student, but I worked really, really hard, right? And I knew that, and that was the truth and the honesty that I held on to when I was in my academic years, right? I held on to that truth. But I was able to be very honest with myself and know that I can't slack off when it comes time to tests or quizzes or materials that I don't know, because I'm not that inherently smart, right? I had that conversation with myself at a very early age of you have to work hard, right? And I have to work hard in order to understand what's going on. I don't have those natural inherent abilities, right? And the same thing happened with me in athletics, right? I played college volleyball, for those who don't know, and I'll touch more on that later, but again, I'm about 5'8", and in a sport where being taller is traditionally better, I always had to be honest with myself and say I'm not going to get to be 6 foot or above. So I've got to do something else that makes me stand out, right? So again, if I can be honest with myself, then that's kind of the first step in a journey of, you know, being real and really pushing past those boundaries that are set, right? Next thing here, I found this quote and I just truly love it. If you want to experience change, you have to start by being honest with yourself about where you are at now and why that's not working for you and the life that you want to live. It's only when we're present and honest with ourselves that we can start to longingly shift the situation. Change doesn't come in the future, it comes from this moment, right? And for a long time, I felt like I was stuck in this person that I didn't want to be, and I was always confused as to why am I not, this ideal vision of myself? Why am I not there? Why am I not there? And it ultimately boiled down to that I was lying to myself, right? I would tell myself things like, oh, you don't have time to work out, or you don't have time to do this, or oh, it's not that bad. You're fine the way that this is, or this isn't that dirty, right? You'll clean it later, right? I wasn't very honest with myself. And when push came to shove, when I wasn't happy with this person that I was, I really had to take a long look in the mirror and say, okay, is it the situation or is it me, right? And ultimately, the only thing that I can control is my thoughts, my feelings, and my actions, right? And so I had to have a conversation and say, hey, I don't like this, this, and this, but I have to be willing to change this, that, and the other, right? And again, having that conversation is tough, right? But it truly is something that we can grow upon here and help us to shift our situation, shift away from whatever is holding us down or keeping us back, right? Having that conversation honestly, you can then start to develop a plan as to how you're going to get to whatever it is your goal, or how are you going to take one small step working towards your goal. But the first step there is realizing where you're at and being very honest with yourself of where you're at that point in time. Right. And I mentioned here that I played athletics, or I was in athletics. So I did play volleyball throughout my entire life, and I played in my college career. I was very fortunate in that respect. And one of the things that I always loved was this idea of, if you get a reputation for being honest, you have 95% of the competition already beat. Right. And I love this thought. And one of the things that we always harped on in our college athletics program was we would do a lot of games against each other, right? So, we would have one team of our gym play against the other team of our gym, right? And for those sports people, right, we would scrimmage each other, right? And whenever we would play those games, if you made a fault or you had an error, or you did something that was against the rules, immediately our policy in the gym was you call it on yourself, right? And when I got to my college, I honestly thought this was the weirdest thing. I was always like, well, I want to win. I want to win. I want to win. I'm going to do what it takes in order to compete and beat whoever, right? And I ended up realizing throughout my college career that you have to be honest, because you're not going to get away with something like that in a competition, right? In competition, you're going to have refs, you're going to have judges, you're going to have somebody there who is scrutinizing your every move. And if you train improperly or dishonestly, right, you're going to carry that over to competition. It's not like you can all of a sudden turn it on and have this competition ready face and actions and all this stuff, right? You have to play and practice the same, right? Or you have to practice like you want to play. And that was something that, again, it was a very big culture shock for me, but it is something that I have kept with me, right? You have to hold yourself to a higher standard, because everybody around you, especially in athletics, everybody around you is going to hold you to a standard, right? And you want to make sure that your standard is the highest one around. So that way, you're surpassing everybody else's standards or expectations. Again, in the terms of athletics, I want to make sure that I am playing clean and that all my, athletic moves or endeavors, I'm following the rules and I'm doing all this stuff by the book, because again, when push comes to shove, competition time, I'm going to have somebody there looking at me, judging me. So why not practice and hold myself to that high standard that I know I'm going to ultimately have to achieve, right? And that really harps on this quote here. I'd rather be honest than impressive, right? And you know, some people might argue and say, well, I want to be impressive. I want to be impressive. But you also want to be a person of high morals, right? And honesty, in my opinion, is a very high moral, and it should be held in really high esteem. And again, if you're impressive, but you're deceitful or dishonest, are you truly impressive? You know, I would argue that you're not, right? You're not truly impressive. This fake person or this fake athlete or fake persona that you're putting out there, that is what is impressive, not you down to your core, right? And again, it takes a lot of courage. And that's what this last quote here that I want to harp on. Honesty and transparency make you vulnerable. Be honest and transparent anyways. Right? It is very, very hard to be honest, right? Some people, you know, it's naturally there. Some people have to work at it, right? But being honest and vulnerable, right? Being honest and vulnerable or transparent, right? It makes you vulnerable. And it's difficult. But if you put yourself out there and you say, hey, this is me, this is who I am, this is what I'm about, you're going to be able to surround yourself with people who also have those same characteristics or same morals as you, right? And again, it all comes down to, in my opinion, you have to be honest with yourself, right? In everything that you do, in sports, in clubs, in academics, in your personal life, in your relationships with people, your family, your friends, your significant others, right? Being honest with yourself is that first step to being honest in your entire life, right? Again, lying to yourself is easy, right? It's very easy, but standing up for who you are or who you want to be is a difficult thing. But you're going to look back on it and be very proud and happy of the transition and the progress that you've been able to make, right? Again, if you have questions, comments, anything you want to share or ask, please don't hesitate to ask Coach Lyle. I would be more than happy to have a conversation, or you know, even just send you know, text responses that Coach Lyle can read out for you guys in class. Again, thank you so much for letting me share my personal opinions and my story. And I hope that this has helped and been a little bit enlightening for some of you. Again, thanks again.